So good morning. Welcome to Unity of the Rock. As we settle in this morning, we're going to watch a little music from one of my favorite musicians for many decades. Unfortunately, Ashley Morris let me know this morning that she was under the weather, so she can't be here to do our live music for us. So you'll have to listen to me. And fortunately, I won't be singing, though. Me and only me, I guess is what I tried to say. So keep Ashley in your thoughts and your prayers as we listen to a little Karen Drucker this morning. Yay. I love this song because who we've been waiting for is us individually. We spend so much of our life hunting and searching, and what we're trying to discover is the truth of who we are. Trying to move through all the struggle and strife and all the heartache and pains that we discover in life to reveal that what we've been looking for is right here. It's within us. It is who we are. But also we're looking for a community that will be those people that see that within us, so that we in turn see that within them. I saw Susan Julie this morning. Some of this community know who she is. She's speaking this morning over at Mount Pleasant Methodist Church. And she came in to tell me, and a little while back, I told her she just weren't wired the same as the rest of the world. And she could have took that as offense, right? You ain't wired right. But she took it that, no, I'm not wired the same as everyone else. That's what makes me unique. That what makes me valuable in this world, because I bring through this life in a new way, a different way than you and you and you. And we were celebrating together that she knows that of herself, but she's also in a community, in a family that welcomes that and embraces that and says, you bring your completely wired difference into us and share that and express that. So thank you for being here. If this is your first time or your second time or your 188th time, whatever it might be, you know, we're casual here. We're relaxed. I'm going to share with you today. Some Sundays, these folks that have seen me 188 times know that sometimes I get up and I give a talk, and some Sundays I just talk. And this is probably one of those Sundays that I just talk, because there just seems to be a focus and a direction I want to go other than what I prepared. So hopefully I won't ramble too much, but if I do, that's okay. Throw out a question, throw out a comment, and see what we might take this together. Because we are such an intimate group, that's okay. That doesn't disrupt, that doesn't cause problems, that isn't an issue. Know that we want to know who we are, and that's why we come together just in community. Even when we don't know that, I believe that's why we come together, is to discover the truth of who we are. I have something for you this morning. What's the best religion? What's the best religion?
I guess the one that suits you.
Oh, the angel is our sage this morning. The Dalai Lama was asked, what's the best religion? And this was written by the journalist that asked that question. And he said, I was being a little malicious because I wanted to see what he said, but I also wanted to see what he said. And his response was, the best religion is the one that gets you closest to God. It is the one that makes you a better person. So said the journalist said, trying to recover from such a great answer, I asked him, what is it that makes me better then? And the Dalai Lama responded, what makes you more compassionate, more sensible, more detached, more loving, more humanitarian, more responsible, more ethical? The religion that will do that for you is the best religion. He said, I'm not interested, my friend, about your religion or if you are religious or not. I heard religious or spiritual this morning. What really is important to me is your behavior in front of your peers, in front of your community. And remember, the universe is the echo of our actions and our thoughts. The law of action and reaction is not exclusively for physics. It is also for human relations. If you act with goodness, then you will receive goodness. If you act with evil, you will get evil. So take care of your thoughts, because they will become words, and the words actions, and the actions habits, and the habits character, and the character destiny, and the destiny will be your life. So I read that this morning because in Unity, we have a way of thinking about and talking about and approaching what we call divine. And we use terminology, and I've been educated into using that terminology. And sometimes that's confusing just because it don't make no sense if you hadn't been educated in it. But the truth is, it's just words to describe the same thing that every religion is attempting to describe. And we have different doctrine, those rules that we say, oh, you've got to walk this way and do these things in our different faiths. But ultimately in Unity, we hope that we're doing our best to convey, we want you to walk who you are, how you're wired to be. And when you walk that, we want to be the support in that, in helping you deeply, deeply understand who you are and have that experience of life of knowing the truth, which truth with a capital T for us means knowing that the divine is here, spirit is here, that you are more than just this physical body. There's something more contained within you, but as you. You're not just an egg in a shell. You're that complete whole. And that what we're doing in our spiritual journeys is growing in our awareness and then our experience, our embodiment of that. So I just gave y'all a whole message right here in the opening.
You did.
So let's do this. Let's do our opening prayer. This is affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer isn't necessarily, as you listen, isn't asking for something. It's affirming something. It's claiming who we are. So these are the steps. Our Jeannie that speaks often here on Sundays loves to show us these steps and talk about these steps. I don't necessarily adhere to the steps diligently.
She's here.
Oh, she's there? Okay. She's hearing me talk about her. But the point is to affirm the truth that's here in this moment. So if you're willing and want to join me in this, whether you want to close your eyes or just soften your gaze, know that right here, just as I drove in this morning and saw the sun shining, but that there was this magnificent, beautiful cloud cover. But that cloud didn't stop that sun from shining. The shine was still taking place. That luminosity was still permeating our galaxy and out into the universe. Well, that same light is that same divine presence, divine power, that one source, that one presence that is in the universe, of the universe, and that we are made in that image and likeness of that one source. And that light shines forth in us, as us. We can't be separate from it. And if we can't be separate from it, then all that is contained within it, the magnificence, the beauty, the knowledge, the power, the love, the compassion, all that is within us as well. And we claim that we are going to deepen our understanding of that and bring that forth today. Bring it forth in a way that we now embody it. We become it. We are it in our actions, in our words. And the world is a better place because we choose to be that light in the world. We choose to be all that is contained within that light. It is us. And whether we recognize how wired the difference is between us and how wired we are in our approaches in life, that doesn't matter. What matters is that we come together and recognize that the truth that is the truth is in you and is you. No matter what your actions are, no matter what your words are, but that we seek to refine our actions and our words to be that expression. And we're grateful that we have a community to come to. Grateful that whether it's 180 people or 8 people, that we have a place to come and be a part of and know that we're welcomed for who we are, no matter what our religion, no matter what our faith, whether we're spiritual or non-spiritual, that we are welcome. And we're grateful for that. And we say, and so it is. Amen. Yay! This is our opening statement. I want to invite you just to repeat this with me. So, together, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God, the source of all good. Does that say there's evil in the universe? Well, there may be evil things that happen, but it isn't because there's evil creating that. It's our lack of recognizing that in our own lives and our needs to try to, or our attempt to try to fulfill our needs in our life. And we all go about that differently. And sometimes that difference doesn't come across as very loving or compassion to others of us. So, this morning, I'm going to pull up a stool and share with you what we've been talking about all month and will continue to talk about this month. And that is the power of the prayer for protection. The prayer for protection was written by James Dillard Freeman, and it was written as a prayer, but it reads as a poem. And he wrote it in the World War II at the request of people saying, I would love to have a prayer to take into battle with me in the experiences of World War II. And he wrote it and rewrote it and wrote it again and rewrote it again. He had many iterations of this prayer before we got to the one that we call primary today. And that there is that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us, and wherever we are, God is. Jeannie last week told us that was taken to the moon. It was taken in 1969 on the first moon mission by Buzz Aldrin and left on the moon. And what I find interesting was he didn't even know who George Dillard Freeman was. He knew nothing about unity, even though George Dillard Freeman's a unity minister. Passed away in 2003. But Buzz Aldrin knew nothing about that. He just liked the prayer and left it on the moon. So, the prayer of protection is not, it's not this magic spell that we're coating ourselves with when we say it. It's not meant to be this protective shield that we say it and now we have this barrier around it. It's meant to be more of a prayer that's about bringing us into the awareness of protection. I have most of my life talked about the prayer for protection as the prayer of protection. But its formal name is the prayer for protection, because for means that it's in favor of, in support of. So it's the prayer in support of protection. And how does the protection arise for us? Well, the protection arises because it's not the words themselves that bring about the protection. The words are bringing us into the awareness, and the awareness brings us into the expression or the embodiment none of it. So what awareness is it bringing us into?
Our oneness with spirit.
Our oneness with spirit. Say that another way. How else would you say that?
Spiritual oneness.
Spiritual oneness, okay. Other ways?
Unity.
Community with what? That's a good answer, but community with what?
Connection.
Community with connection. So there are connecting, community implies that there's a unification taking place, that you're united together. Whether there's one or many. Can you be a community of one?
Sure.
Well, can't you be connected to yourself? So, yes, you can be community that way. So our prayer for protection is bringing us into that awareness. And y'all have heard me more times than not know that I talk about how important prayer is to do just that, to bring us in the awareness of who we are, that truth of who we are. Because having a recognition of the truth, does that stop difficult things from happening in the world? Because we have an awareness of the truth of who we are. No, don't we still have relationships that end? Don't we still have war? Don't we still have loved ones that die? And don't we still respond to that? Meaning that we have emotions and feelings around that. Well, of course, we do. So the prayer of protection isn't about ending that. It's about allowing us now to step up and be able to approach that in a way that we can see it for what it is, and we can make a decision that makes it the easiest for us to move through that experience. And you heard I said move through that experience, not eliminate that experience, not avoid that experience, but move through that experience. So, what does Charles Fillmore, who's the co-founder of the Unity Movement, say about power? I pester y'all that have been around for a long time. Power is a word that we use often because it's associated with the 12 attributes of spirit that we talk about in Unity, and we call it the 12 powers. Just to confuse, because power is one of the 12 powers. It even makes my head spin at times. Okay. So, what's Charles Fillmore say about power? What is power? No? Yeah, I had to look it up too, because I had my own definition about it. He says that power is our human innate control over our feelings and thoughts. Our innate control over our thoughts and feelings. So power is really about us being able to address our own thoughts and feelings and not allow them to control us, but for us to control them. So there's a law of mind action. The Dalai Lama quoted that law of mind action that as we think about it in Unity, and that is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And why does that matter in the spiritual life? Why do the thoughts you think make a bit of difference in your spiritual life?
Because what you put out comes back to you.
Okay, yes. And how does that impact your spiritual life? How's that tie together? You have an answer for that?
It's all spiritual life.
Well, it is all spiritual life. Yes, it is. They're not separate, is what I hear you saying, right? They're not separate. The thoughts that we hold determine how we interact in the world, right? If I think Verraine is the scariest woman on the planet, okay, how am I going to interact with her? Okay? Yeah, see, look, I'm already shaking. Oh, goodness. I just had a thought about your Halloween costume. That was it, right there. If I believe something, then I react, respond, say certain things, do certain things, don't do certain things, based on what I believe about you. So I would give Lorraine probably as wide a berth as I humanly could. But when I was forced to interact with her, I would interact with her from a place of defense, right? Because I'm frightened of her. She's fearful. But if I think Lorraine is the most loving, kind, generous human being, and that wisdom flows out of her every time I hear her open her mouth, then how differently is my experience with her? So, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. We like to sometimes in the prosperity world say that just because you hold a thought, you're going to get that thing, whatever that thing is that you're holding, like money, that I'm thinking about money, that all my active thoughts are about wealth and money and accumulation. Does that mean that I'm going to have money and wealth and accumulation?
Depends how you think about it, I guess.
So,
Depends on what else you're thinking about.
yes, so we've got that there are conflicting ideas going on within our consciousness, within how we think, believe about things.
And how you feel about it.
And our emotions, thank you. Because your emotions are the fuel to those thoughts. That just like if I'm frightened of Lorraine, that isn't just a conscious idea that, oh, she is fearful. I've got this embodied emotion that's welling up. Boy, my body's kicking out all the fight or flight hormones and chemicals, all that's taking place, all because of a feeling and emotion that goes with that. So we want, depending on what the conflicting ideas and thoughts and beliefs and conflicting emotions. I sat with two people one time and we were talking about money, and they were both doing deep healing work. And one of them had discovered that she grew up with a mother that, I can't remember what the exact dollar amount was, but it was one of those dollar amounts she made a month that all of us would be horrified thinking about some human being trying to live on that little of money each month. But this woman had grown up with her mother only making that amount of money. And when she became an adult, she found out that she struggled financially. She struggled making money. And every time she had a job that had the potential for making more money, something happened. It got sabotaged. And the job seemed to go away. And what she learned in that experience was there was a part of her that believed because that her mother worked so hard and was such a wonderful, loving person that it was insulting to make more than her mother because it was saying that she was more valuable than her mother. Now, we might say, well, that sounds a little crazy, but it's the beliefs that we hold. And she had to do a great deal of healing work to be able to help her move through that awareness so that she wasn't holding that, oh, I can't make money, otherwise it's a big, hey, screw you, Mom. I'm better than you. You weren't good enough, and I'm showing you up. That was her journey in that. But the other woman grew up with a stepmother that was fairly well off and used the money as a way of controlling. You only got clothes if you did things this way. You only got to go on these trips if you did things that way. So when she got to be an adult, money became an issue for control for her, and she made a great deal of money easily because part of her consciousness was, I need to never be controlled by another human being with money, so I need to have money myself. So I'm just showing that here's beliefs that shape us, and we can take them and utilize them differently. And sometimes that's what the conflicting beliefs that are taking place. But also what had to happen with any of these beliefs. If I believe that I am a billionaire, and I think that every day, and I focus on that, and I affirm that every day, is Russ a billionaire? How likely am I to be a billionaire? Well, what action am I taking to be a billionaire? If I'm sitting on my stool saying I'm a billionaire, what have I done to help that conspire with the universe to come about? Well, nothing. So there's actions that have to take place. So the prayer of protection in some ways for me is that reminder of who we are, that love, that power, that presence of the divine, but that we must take action, and the action is the embodying of that. And one of the ways we embody that is how? It's connecting with that inner sanctum, that inner sanctuary. Prayer is a step for that. I know some of you have heard me talk about my prayer and my meditation time are pretty much the same. Okay? I pray and meditate, and they blend together in a way that I don't really think of them separately. They're one thing for me. But I mean, you have to be that. You don't have to be wired like me, right? You can do them separately, or only do one of them, because you can actually meditate and be in a prayerful state as you could if you're consciously praying. So there are, like the religions, there are many ways to go about the journey to get to the end that ultimately will never be an end, right? To me, there's always an unfolding that's taking place. But anyway, so the prayer of protection. We have to recognize those beliefs that we're holding within us, in some ways what our fears are. There's a story, I'm sure y'all read or heard this story. It's about the man that's gone to the circus and looks over and sees this full-grown elephant, and it's tied up with a little thin rope. And he goes to the trainer and goes, why is this elephant staying here when it's on a little rope that it could just snap in a heartbeat? And the trainer says, because when it was a small baby elephant, that rope was big enough to restrain it. But as it grew, it just believed that the rope had the power to keep it in place. And now as an adult, it does nothing different to try to disprove that, because its belief is that rope will hold me. Which, the moral being, it's what we believe often that helps us entrench where we are, which may be what? Where we don't want to be, or it may also help entrench where we want to be. Okay? They both work the same in that we like to give belief systems a bad name, but sometimes our belief systems are also exactly what help us create the life and have the awareness, deepen the spiritual understanding that we have in our lives. So, questions about that? Y'all haven't stumped me with a good question in weeks and weeks.
How do you change your beliefs?
Thank you, Gail. Just, there you go. Just like I asked for it, did it? Don't give me an easy question. One, just what you said. That's starting to question the belief and starting to recognize that I have a belief that I want to change. So some of it is, I have to know I have a belief before I can even step into doing something with the belief. Now, I don't always understand the depth of the belief, like my two women's example. The woman that started to understand, that she didn't want to surpass her mother, it took her years of healing work before she got that miraculous aha for. But she knew there was something around her mother and money that was part of the core for it. So she started that process because she had an awareness. The other is, so this comes out of my own personal healing work. Russ has to find those places that I hold the pain and the fear around that belief, that pain and fear. I can drop the emotional charge I have on that belief for me. Y'all have heard me talk. I grew up in an abusive home. Part of me believed that, had lots of beliefs came out of that experience, but one of them was, you have no value, you know no worth. That experience there told me that I wasn't good enough. And there was a great deal of emotional sadness that goes with that belief. So for me, I had to keep understanding why I believed that. I don't think everyone has to do it that way, but that's Russ's approach. That I wanted to look at, why do I believe that I'm not good enough? And I went through all that childhood experience and got real clarity for me. I believed it because I felt powerless. I was a child and I was watching someone do something to my family that I wanted to do something about, but didn't know how. And I shouldn't have known how because I was a child. So actually my response was perfect for a child. It's just what, as an adult, what I took from it now shaped me and influenced me as an adult. There was something different I could do with that. So I grew the awareness of that. It allowed me to take some of the charge off of that. But while I was taking the charge off that, Gail, I was also affirming what it is that I wanted. Because if I know I have a belief, then there's something there that I'm saying I probably don't want, right? Is that the way your question is phrased? That there's something that you want to change, something that you want to be different, okay? Then there's something else that counters that. There's what I do want, how I want to be. And I affirm that, but I affirm that by knowing what? Where does that power, where does that brilliance, where does that success, where does that intelligence come from? That's not a trick question. In a spiritual community, where does that come from? It comes from the truth within you. It may be you in this material form going out into the world and doing the job and making the money and having the success, but it's that creative process within you. It's that divine nature that's having the ideas and having the desire to go out and do those things. So you're also affirming that divine nature. So not only do I look and say, this is where I would like to be, I know that truth is already here. Because in divine are infinite potentials, every potential. So everything that I ever could imagine, every idea that I can come up with is already contained there. And because I am made in that likeness and image, it's contained in me. It is me. Yeah, I'm not experiencing it right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not contained here. So in that recognition, I keep affirming that, but I also keep working on how to embody that. And I think that's where becomes the greatest struggle in a spiritual community. Is because I can talk about that all day, I can't give it to you. Right? You have to do the work. You have to do the practices. And to me, the practices, our cores of unity, are prayer and meditation, and it requires that. To me, when I say requires, I mean you got to do it. No, you got to do nothing around that. But if you want to deepen that spiritual awareness, embody what the prayer for protection is saying to us, then you have to do the practices along with that. Yeah. So, in some ways, that was a long but simple answer to that, because there's nuance, because it's finding for ourselves what it is that we're holding on to. Charles Fillmore, that co-founder of Unity, told us that sin was just error thought. And the error of thought was not recognizing our divine nature. And that when you didn't recognize your divine nature, then you thought you were less than, not good enough in my case. And if not good enough, then using that law of mind action, I step into the world and guess what I get? Not good enough. The world around me reflects back to me that Russ isn't good enough, right? So I kept getting affirmed that. So I had to, the nuance with that is that we have to each discover for ourselves what it is that we're using as our error thought. What am I holding? What am I believing that says that I am less than? While continuing to come back to and affirm that truth. Even when that truth is hard for us. Because I look at it, I watch the news, oh my goodness. I watch the political commentators, and I have a hard time seeing truth and love and compassion and God. It's a hard sell for us to look at those things and see that. And that's my struggle. But then I work on coming back to that, or remembering that truth of who we are, the truth of who I am. And if I am that, you are that. And I remember it for you. And if you're that, then I'm that. And that's why in community it's so important for us to come together and remember that for ourselves, but also to affirm it in others, to help them remember. Susan Julie this morning, when she told me how she responded to my statement about me saying she was wired different, it was a blessing for her. It freed her that I don't have to fall into somebody else's category. As the saying goes, you have loosed me upon the world. Okay? You have freed me up with that statement. Now, did I free her up? No. She changed her belief system about herself. That somehow, who knows? In my world, I can look what my parents told me, that I tried to walk that line of what they told me. And it was many decades before I realized, oh no, that was their line to walk. That wasn't Russ's line to walk, but it took me a while to get there. All right. Other questions? Maybe an easier one.
Well, one thing, it's not a question, and one thing I was thinking about was, my second husband was, I feel like, really affected by something he said to his mother. This is before I was in his life. He was having a conversation with his mother, and he was building up his construction business. And he said to his mom, and I think at that time, he had 6 children, and he said to his mom, I'm going to be a millionaire someday, Mom. And she was horrified. She said, oh no, you don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And honestly, every time we would get so much money in the savings account, something would happen on his job. He'd have a big fight with his boss, or there'd really be a problem that he didn't agree with the values of the company, or it was just uncanny. And I thought, okay, that's something you would have to want to change, and how do you want to change? Oh, I guess you have to believe you can change first. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a great comment, Gail, and to me a whole nother discussion too is, I think sometimes religions help us when that power is conveyed as being greater than us, and that power will help us change. Now, we don't quite talk about it that way in Unity. We talk about the powers within you, and if the change is going to happen within you. But I think of some of the 12-step programs.
Right.
You know, I haven't done 12 steps, but my interpretation is for some people, I don't think they believe that they can change, but they believe that something can help change them.
Right.
That power. That power. So, yes, ultimately we get to, I have to embrace that even if this is helping me change, I can change. That still is me that's doing the changing, and that I have the capacity to change. That was a great example too of somebody just says one thing. Sorry, I've got other stories for you. In the same group of women that were doing this healing work, one of the women had spent decades thinking that she was molested as a child. And doing the healing work, she recalled a memory, and the memory was her mother taught her that the nightgown is just for the bedroom. You don't ever let anybody else see your nightgown because it's just for nighttime. It's just for sleeping. So she interpreted that as, well, then nobody else should see you in a nightgown. Well, her parents had a nice big party, and at bedtime, they brought her out to the crowd for them to all say goodnight to her. As a gesture of love and having a crowd of people love her and say, good night. But for her, there was shame attached because she was in her nightgown. And somewhere in her years that followed, that shame turned into an understanding, even though she didn't have a memory of molestation, that the feeling of that was there. So she had to do the work around that to get there. So it's a great example of, here was a very loving, kind intention from a mom that was interpreted in a way anything other than loving and kind. So our parents often influence and impact us that way. Sometimes for the great. As much as I believed I wasn't good enough, my mother told me the counter to that 112,000 times in my teenage years. And I think that if she had had a big stick close by, she would have walloped me every time, trying to get it to go into my head. Because I could see, in retrospect, that she could see what was going on. And she was trying to give me a different way, a different approach. So she kept affirming differently for me. So, part of our prayer for protection is that change that takes place within us and for us when we're affirming that truth, that there's this love enfolding us, there's this presence here, there's this power here, and that here is here as well as here for us. So I just invite for this week, take that prayer of protection. If you don't have a copy of that, Google Unity Prayer for Protection. You'll get more examples of it. And you'll also get some of the variations. And the variations we often do here is that we say the prayer of protection a line, and then we've added another line. So we've modified it. Today we're not going to modify it. When we say it at the end of our time together today, we're going to say just as it's been repeated since World War II, when its final iteration. But, so I want you, let me back up. So I want you to hold that prayer of protection each day. Say it, think it, but ponder its lines. What's it mean to be enfolded in love? What's it mean to have the presence of God here? What does that mean to you? Just ask the question and see where your thoughts, what the experience is that arises for you. But also then to allow yourself to be in the silence. I know that were you meditating before CJ?
Was what happened?
Were you meditating before CJ? Okay. He and I both had a coach many years ago, and that's actually where I learned to meditate, was with the coach. You were already meditating, so you surpassed me on that one. I thought meditation was the craziest thing I'd ever done. You're sitting there and everybody's telling me you're supposed to quiet your mind, and I've got 200 thoughts going on at the same time. What's wrong with you crazy people? You can't silence all this noise that's happening up here. With experience, I know, I still have 200 voices running up there. I've just learned to give them their space, and that there's something else there. And to me, this is again me trying to give words to an experience. I feel myself sit down in that space. I just sit in it. And when I sit in it, I become just a little more of it. And in that little more of it, I become more aware of my connection to everyone and everything, more aware of this compassion and love that's in this man. It's not just my ego, but that it's a wellspring that rises up. And I have the experience of that. And from that experience, then I can get up from that meditation and walk on out, and to me, carry more of that into my world. But in that meditation, I hear all those voices running. A little time has allowed me to soften them, and I got a little home for them to kind of sit them over here, but they still partying hardy over here in my experience while I'm doing my sitting, while I'm sitting into that sanctuary that Charles Fillmore often taught. So, let me read one more thing here for you, and then I'm going to show you something, and then we'll be close to our finish here. This is one of the early versions of the Prayer for Protection by James Dillard Freeman. And it's early in just that its opening paragraph is identical to our prayer of protection, but it has two other paragraphs that actually I've never heard or seen in all my years in Unity. But it goes like this. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. The mind of God guides you. The life of God flows through you. The laws of God direct you. The peace of God abides within you. The joy of God uplifts you. The strength of God renews you. The beauty of God inspires you. And wherever you are, God is, and all is well. I don't know where you could find that one.
It's on Pinterest.
Is that on Pinterest? Really? Well, somebody found it. Well, good. I didn't know that a search would find it, because this was, some of you, there's a website called truthunity.org, and Truth Unity tries to take all the material of Unity and put it in digital form, so you can find all kinds of talks that have been transcribed, all kinds of books that are on there, just for you to access for free. So I found it deep in the well there in that one. And like I said, I'm not seated in anything else in Unity, so I'm glad that it's out there in other places. But I like this because to me, it continues to expand that awareness, that consciousness of what our true divine nature is. So the last thing I'm going to show you here is something I know some of you've seen before, but it really starts about, what is your fear? And what's the truth of your fear? So I'll just play it for you. I'm going to have to jump through here because I ignored some of my slides. You know who that is? Well, the character is Coach Carter, and that's the movie. Coach Carter was the basketball coach for an inner city high school basketball team. And his approach was to make men out of the youth that he was experiencing. And he had his own ideas and definition about what that meant. So this is just a few moments of a game, and then one of the closing scenes in the movie where the coach has been invited to move on because his ways are a little too radical for the powers that be.
What is your deepest fear, young man?
Deer in headlights. Watch those eyes open
Why
wide.
keep saying that? What's your deepest fear? What that mean? So they can cut the chain off the door, but they can't make us play.
We've decided we're gonna finish what you started, sir.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Sir, I just want to say thank you. You saved my life.
Thank you, sir. All of you.
So whether you view that as your fear or not, I think that that's one of the most powerful things that we can experience, especially as a community together, and that is recognize that you're not inadequate. No matter what beliefs you hold, you're not good enough, you're not inadequate, you're not dumb, you're not stupid, you're not whatever things got planted in your little head that somehow seem to have stuck for you. You're not those things. But that you're powerful beyond imagination. Because the divine that's within you is powerful beyond your imagination. Well, I think even as we experience it, we'll never know the fullness of it. It'll still continue to be beyond our imagination. But that we're here to embrace that, to be that, and be just as that. That's actually a poem from Marianne Williamson he was quoting. We take that understanding, that light into the world, and we give others the permission to be that. And as they're being that, then we shape the world, we change the world. The world becomes what so many of us dream and hope for the world, beyond the struggle and strife that we see on our news in the world. So because I have run my mouth today, I'm going to skip our meditation, which is the one thing I think we probably shouldn't have skipped, but it's what we're going to do. So I honor our time. And thank you. Sometimes I give that talk, as I said. Sometimes I just talk, and y'all allowed me to talk today. So thank you. Because it is no secret that anybody that stands up here and shares a topic with you, they're sharing a topic that they wanted to learn more about, and they learned more about. You can't explore communicating something and not understand it more for yourself, and thus be able to embody it more. So that's your gift to me today, was allowing me to run my mouth. And I want to thank y'all for last week. For those of you that weren't here last week, I feel good. And my community embraced me, loved me, and held me to me in that idea of the prayer for protection. And I felt better for it, so thank y'all. And because of that and our experience that Verraine was there, that we went to Miss Linda and did a prayer healing circle with her, had a little potluck at her house, and just loved on her as best we could. We're looking at, and would love to have the participants to continue that on a monthly basis, and to do that idea of a healing circle, but to take it to those that can't come here. They're either too ill, just too old. We'll just say it that way. The body just won't allow, however it may present, to just go to them and take a little food and offer a prayer. And for those that do healing work, energy work, those type of things, that will provide that in a very intense, brief time with them. But that to be our ministry. Because right now, so much of what we used to do, we simply don't have the people, we don't have the resources to do that. Is that a bad thing? Well, what if it's the thing that's meant to be so that we evolve and move into something else? And maybe this is just a step for what we're moving into, and maybe this is the thing that we do. So those that are interested in doing that, like I said, there's no huge commitment. We'll do it once a month. It was 2 hours max. I think we spent an hour and a half there. So we would like to continue that. Last but not least.